Good afternoon, everybody. I am going to present a pre-submission seminar on dynamic load balancing for small and medium-sized enterprise cloud under the guidance of Global Architects. There are the contents how I am going to go about. First, I will explain introduction to cloud computing. What do you mean by cloud computing? What is the motivation of my project? Then the literature survey which I have carried out. Then traditional way for task scheduling. Then activity-based costing, which algorithm we can consider. Then there are different existing algorithms which are there for task scheduling. Then I am going to propose the algorithm for the same, and I will give the results and conclusion and the publication summary after that. So cloud computing, as everybody knows, is a technology that uses the internet and central remote servers to maintain data and applications. It is utility computing. Virtualization, distribution, and dynamic extensibility are the basic characteristics of cloud computing. It is on-demand. Cloud computing gives pay-per-use services. There are different types of services cloud computing gives, which are on-demand and pay-per-use services. It provides access to large amounts of data and resources that can be acquired and released on demand by the customer. So, what is cloud? It's a style of computing where massively scalable IP-related abilities are provided as a service. There are different types of services we can have in cloud computing. We can in fact have anything as a service in cloud computing. Okay, which can be provided by the cloud provider to the customer. So examples, the pioneers in the cloud computing area and the giants, which we can say are Amazon, IBM, Google, which are offering these services. The main use is utility computing, that is pay-per-use basis. So are we actually using the cloud? Yes, we are using, everybody is using the cloud. eBay, Dropbox, all these examples are examples, Gmail, all these iCloud, Flickr, SkyDrive, these are all the examples of cloud that we are using. These are the examples of cloud. YouTube, everything is a cloud. Then, what does the cloud require? Cloud requires an internet connection. First of all, since it is internet-based technology, we require internet connection. Without that, we cannot go or have any service from the cloud. Then an account created with a username, password, as everybody knows. For example, you can have just a simple example is your Gmail. So cloud is computing and software services which are delivered on demand as service. So we have shown here the integration of computing and software resources together, which is called as a cloud. So as I said, we can have anything as a service on cloud. So basically, but there are three types of services which we can have, which is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. We can have database as a service, storage as a service, anything as a service. But three basic services which we are talking about. Okay. So first is software as a service. As the name suggests, it is going to give you software as a service. For that, Salesforce.com and these companies are pioneering starting. Even Amazon is using AWS as software service. You don't have to purchase any software. You just now can go and upload go on the cloud, get the service of the software, run your program, and just come back. That is software service. You don't have to pay for the software actually. You just have to pay for time you have to use that software. That is what the software is. Then platform as a service. Suppose you want to run the program in MATLAB, then again you have to get the MATLAB software, again you have to purchase the software. You did not do that. You just write the program, go and get the services on the platform. You can write in the cloud, get the result on your desktop. That's it. That is giving you platform as a service. Again, you only pay for the time you have used the service. Similarly, infrastructure as a service, it will give you all the computing service. For example, it will give you any create a virtual machine on your desktop with whatever configuration you have demanded. You can get a very high-end system on a very thin client. Then core objective of cloud computing. Why do we go to cloud computing? First objective they are given is security. but still very sensitive applications we do not put on cloud because security is not very, we don't have very good security algorithm, but still we can go for any other thing on the cloud. Even you are storing so many things on the cloud. After on the Google Drive you are storing so many things. Even all my research work is stored on the cloud. Why? Because it is secure. Scalability. It is second characteristic and objective of the cloud. Scalability means you can scale up and down as per the demand. As per the
about cloud computing. What is your contribution?
Yes.
Come to your contribution.
Availability, performance, and it is cost effective. Main thing is very cost effective. So motivation behind my project is same thing as this class 1 was objective was cost effective use. That is the motivation of my project. How can we give all the services to the customers with an effective cost so that they can get anything if the time reduced for the execution of their task. Time is reduced, definitely the cost will be reduced. That is my motivation for the project. I will reduce the time for the execution of the task. I will group them together, schedule them in such a manner that cost is reduced, time is reduced. So for this I have carried out extensive literature survey. Different algorithms have been proposed by different researchers before also for task scheduling. There is a large distributed network of FLS machines. The primary benefit of moving to cloud is application scalability, as I said. We can scale up and down as per the demand. Unlike grids, scalability of cloud resources allows real-time provisioning of resources to meet application requirements. This enables workflow management systems to really meet quality of service requirement of the application. The first paper which I have studied is about optimized algorithm for task scheduling based on activity-based costing in cloud computing. This paper I have studied. I have considered this paper, tried to understand this and to carry forward my work, how I can reduce the time and cost based on this paper. Then another paper is dynamic job grouping based scheduling for deployment applications with fine-grained tasks on global grids. This paper also I have considered, but in this paper they have grouped the job, scheduled the job, tried to minimize time, but everything is done on grids. It is only done for grid computing. I have taken this concept, carried forward into the cloud computing. I have used cloud simulator for my project and got the results. Then third paper which I have studied is load balancing mechanism based on ant colony and complex network theory in open cloud computing conditions. Then load balancing. The fourth paper is load balancing versus distributed rate limiting, whereas load balancing is a different issue, distributed rate limiting is a different issue. Both these issues are put together in the integrated together properly so that we get an effective and efficient time management. Then I have studied a load balancing strategy for virtual storage. Then the sixth paper we have studied is adaptive distributed load balancing algorithm based on live migration of virtual machine. How can we balance the load by directly the live migration of the virtual machine from one server to another server. Then next paper is active coordination towards effectively managing the virtualized multi-core cloud. Then I have also studied on storage access optimization with virtual machine migration and basic performance analysis of your Amazon KCP. And so on and so forth. Last one is that there are many more algorithms which I have studied, including SIG-LM algorithm, server storage virtualization, task grouping in grids, cost-based resource scheduling paradigm, cost and efficiency-based scheduling, etc. This is my literature review table, which in the nutshell which I have put here. So traditional way of task scheduling in cloud computing tends to use the direct task of user as the overhead application base. Traditionally, the tasks are scheduled by user requirement taking into account execution time and the availability of the resource. When we want to schedule the task, what we have to do, we have to take into account whatever time, whether that task will be requiring for the execution and whether the resources needed for that execution of the task are available or not. These two factors are very important. But the limitation is there. Since cloud computing uses concept of virtualization, there will be no relationship here between the overhead application base and the way the different tasks of overhead cost. Overhead cost of resources can be caused by the delay in whether the available resources there or not, in getting the task to the resources, the time taken during the execution as well as time taken during the availability of the resources. All these things are taken into consideration. Next is activity-based costing, which uses cost drivers that directly link performed activities to the task. In order to measure direct cost of applications, every individual use of resources. Here, what resources we are going to talk about CPU cost. What will be the cost of CPU to execute my if my task is very big task which requires large number of computations. So definitely I will require a high-end CPU. So that CPU will be costing more. So that also have to consider. The memory cost, then I/O cost, it also has to be measured. It can help solve problems such as distorted product cost and poor cost control. Total cost and profit ratio is also calculated for each generated task. It selects the task that generates more profit and send them to for execution with highest priority. So here priority is given to the task which is going to generate more profit to the vendor. So those tasks are executed first. So this is the existing algorithm. How we are going to generate the priority for whatever task coming for execution. We will first calculate the priority level. Just now I told you how we can calculate the priority level by just measuring the cost associated with that particular list. And for every N, we sort them and put them into the appropriate list. High priority list, middle priority list and low priority list. If there is a new task coming, we will calculate again its priority and put it into that particular appropriate list. But then after that we will first execute high priority list, medium and then low priority. So when the system is running, if every list is on empty, again we will proceed the task which has the highest priority. We will scan every list to modify the priority based on the respective conditions. So what is the limitation of this particular existing algorithm? The primary drawback of this algorithm is less costly, it's more time to execute all tasks, which is sorted depending on their priority. Here we are only thinking about priority as unique priority task which is going to give you more cost. But here they are not talking about the time execution. So here customer will not be benefited because they will have to actually pay more for which they could have paid less. So if customer is not benefited, definitely they would like to migrate to the different cloud vendor who can give them better execution at a lower cost. So as total time for execution increases, rate which is to be paid for using resources also increases. So customer is definitely going to have to pay more. That is the limitation of the existing algorithm. Then we are going to propose an algorithm wherein we can considerably reduce the time. By reducing the time, definitely we are going to reduce the cost. It is going to be a win-win situation for both vendor as well as customer. So we can achieve this. How we can achieve this? By reducing the time by grouping the sorted tasks. First we sort the tasks, we group them together and then we put them to the scheduler so that they can be executed within the group. So that time is reduced. So these group tasks can be then sent to their respective resources for the execution. The scheduler accepts a number of tasks and processes overhead of all the tasks. Then certain resources are selected. The priority levels of the tasks are calculated. Tasks are sorted according to their priority. Then the tasks are grouped and sent to respective resources for execution. So the proposed improved activity-based costing algorithm will proceed in following steps. First, we arrange tasks according to priority level. Then it will group the task and then schedule that group task to the resources where they should be executed. So the algorithm goes like this. For all available tasks, first we calculate the priority level, sort them and put them in the list of high priority, middle and low, calculate its priority and then put them into priority list, then group them together and then schedule them. So if every list first we check the millions of MI in millions of instructions and MIPS in millions of instructions per second. For that we will check whether MI is less than MIPS. Okay. If it is less, then we add next task with the current running group. If it is more, we shift it to another resource. So the flowchart for the same is like this. First we receive the task, calculate the priority, sort the task based on their priority, store the sorted task in one of the three lists, that is high, middle and low priority. If new task is present, again we start the same thing. We can receive the task, calculate priority. If new task is not there, we can change. Then how will we group it? First we will receive the number of tasks n and number of available resources n. Let there be number of tasks n coming. number of resources available will be n. So receiving list is suppose R. So we will set sum of length to total. Suppose first we set the total length up to 0, just to initialize it. Then we will get the MI place. It is given some instruction per second of the next resource. So how much? What is the availability of the next resource? How much was the capacity of the next resource? Which can calculate that. We will calculate that, and then we will schedule the task accordingly. So if MI place is less than MI, as I said, we will get MI of the new task, and then we will calculate the total GMI equal total GMI plus MI, and then total length, which is if it is less than MI place, then again we will execute it, or else we will subtract the total length minus MI. I can explain this with the help of an example. There is example given here. I can explain it with the help of that. So here in this example, we are taking the granularity size, which we are setting it to 3 seconds. The scheduler here selects resource of 33 MIPS and multiply the MIPS with the given granularity size. In total, that particular resource can process 99 MI of user task within 3 seconds. So the scheduler will gather the user task by accumulating their MI up to 99 MI. In this case, the first 4 tasks, as you can see here, first 4 tasks, first 1 drop 0, 1, 2, 3 is having 85 MI. So we can schedule it to total RMI. Since it can handle 99 MI, we can schedule this to this particular resource. So on and so forth. Because if we take the fifth one, it will go to 107, which is going beyond the capacity of this resource. So we will skip that. In this way, we will group the task together so that we get maximum availability of that, and we can get maximum utilization of the resource, where we are going to schedule that task and run it. So here technology I have used is CloudSim. I have done this on the Cloud Simulator. In HTTP, we support both system behavior modeling of cloud components such as data center, virtual machines, and everything. So here in the CloudSim, I have made a cloud environment using CloudSim. I have done the programming in NetBeans. I have integrated them together and done a code on that, and I have taken the results on that. I will show how CloudSim here works. In CloudSim, here, as you can see, there are so many components. All these components are nothing but all the different classes. So some are abstract classes, some are interfaces, some are simple classes in the CloudSim, which handles the scheduling task properly. So first task is BW provisioner classing. It's an abstract class which models the policy for provisioning the bandwidth of the virtual machine. Then we have BV provisioning simple, which allows virtual machine to reserve as much bandwidth as required. Only constraint here is that total number of available bandwidth of the host. Host should have, you cannot go beyond the available bandwidth of the host. Then we have something called as cloud coordinator. It is an abstract class which is responsible for periodically monitoring the internal state of data center resources, and based on that, it takes dynamic load shading decisions. In this, there is a method called as update data center method, which is responsible for monitoring data center resources. It acts on the behalf of data center. Cloud coordinator acts on the behalf of data center. Then there is a class called as cloudlet class, which models cloud-based application or task. Cloudlet is nothing but cloud-based application or a task. Here we are calling it as cloudlet. Then we have something called as cloudlet scheduler. It is an abstract class which implements different policies for sharing and processing power among cloudlets in the virtual machine. Then we have data center. As you can see here, we have data center. This class handles core infrastructure level services offered by cloud providers like Amazon, Azure, Google, etc. It has set of hosts with hardware configuration of memory, different ports, capacity, and storage. Then we have data center broker or a cloud broker class. This class acts like broker which is responsible for mediating negotiations between the vendor and the cloud provider, cloud customer. Such negotiations are driven by quality of service requirements. Broker acts on behalf of SaaS provider. Data center characteristics. Again, it is a different class which contains configuration information of data data center resources. Then we have host class. This class models physical resources. As the name says, it is host. It is going to model the physical resources such as computer or storage server. Then we have class called as network topology class, which contains information for inducing network behavior and stores topological information. Then we have RAM provisioner class, which is an abstract class which has policy for allocating RAM to virtual machines. Request of virtual machine for RAM should be within available RAM capacity. We cannot go beyond the capacity of the RAM. Okay. Then my contribution in this work is that I have developed a more comprehensive job machine-based scheduling system which takes into account quality of service requirement as mentioned by the person whose paper I am taking, Rajkumar Bhuria et al. Of each user job before performing the ruling method. In my work, each resource is examined for the current processing load and jobs are grouped according to the available processing capabilities which substantially improve quality of service and the method. Finally, I have used cloud simulator, not the grade one, and to get the result since my title involves load balancing in cloud environment. The results are carried out on CloudSIM 2.1.1. Programming is done in Java or machine language configuration 2.10 GHz Intel IP processor and with the minimum requirement of 2 GB of RAM. Data center with one host is created should have virtual machines on it. Customers can own n number of virtual machines on data center by paying charges for using various resources at data center. The summary of results I can show. So you can say I have simulated this environment. Whenever we run, the simulation runs this after pressing run, and at the new environment we get the results. So here we can give here a number of things. How many number of hosts customer in this we have in data center? Number of hosts is 1. Number of processing units, that is 4. That is the configuration I have given for the first one. Processing capacity, that is MIPS, millions of instructions per second. We can give, that is 9,600 I have given. Storage capacity I have given so much. Total amount of RAM I have given in this one. Then we can even configure provider side and customer side. Both the sides we can configure and run the simulated environment. So here first provider side we can configure, then customer side also we can configure. So in the provider side we can provide infrastructure to the customer who wants to run his application using available resources of the provider. Data center may have number of hosts in it, which in turn can have number of virtual machines to process the user task. Here but only we have to take one care that while assigning resources to customer cannot be allotted more resources than what he is permitted to. So we will see in the subsequent slide the characteristics of data center plus customer virtual machines which are created here. So as you can see, provider, when we click on provider, in the previous one I have not clicked here. So here when we click on provider, I have reached the data center one. Then again I can configure the data center with number of hosts, number of processing units, again giving the capacity, MIPS capacity to the processing unit, storage capacity and total amount of RAM. This I can configure for the data center. Then for the host, RAM, again what do you mean by RAM? Everything I have total RAM dedicated for the host, bandwidth is total bandwidth dedicated for the host, storage, total storage, processing elements are number of processing elements available for the host, MIPS is millions of instructions per second for the, it is processing power for each processing element. RAM provision is a strategy used to provide RAM to VMs created in the host, which I have explained in the CloudSIM also. When I explained CloudSIM, RAM provision is a class, it's an abstract class which is going to give the provision for the.
Just implemented on CloudSIM.
Yes, I have done that on CloudSIM.
Where are the comparisons? You develop two cloud scheduling algorithms. Can you compare with the
yes, the two algorithms I have compared. I will show you the comparison. I have compared. Then again I have configured the host, giving different is RAM I have configured, bandwidth, storage, all the processing elements, RAM provision, everything I have configured on the host. Then third, costing. As you can see how I can configure the cost. Again for data center, if I click on the costing of the data center, I can configure the cost for the processing cost per second. Even I can configure the memory cost, I can configure storage cost as well as bandwidth cost. all these costs put together can give you the entire complete cost which the customer has to pay when they are taking the required service. Now for customer, as we can see now I have clicked on the customer. What do I get when I click on the customer? So customer can own virtual machines on available data centers. The resources will be allocated for respective VMs as per their requirement. The customer will have to pay rent for using the resources of the data center. I have shown the GUI here. Again, the same thing, RAM bandwidth, same thing here. But now here, as sir has said, scheduling policy, I have compared two scheduling policies here. First scheduling policy is activity based. As you can see in this activity based, if I click on this, I get two policies. One is activity based policy and another is improved activity. I have compared these two algorithms and the results. So execution time, as you can see for the existing activity based algorithm, is this one. In this clearly you can see the time required for the processing, and with this the time is substantially improved. Whereas in the existing activity based, as you can see the cost, I have given cost in micro units. I have not put rupees or something, some units, cost in units. So here you can see with the cost one you get the cost for running the same thing with that time you get cost of more than 125 micro units, whereas with the same when you run it you get the costing as 80. So substantially your cost is decreased. Time is decreased, cost is decreased using the algorithm which I have proposed on Cloudstream. So the conclusion is that improved activity-based costing scheduling strategy groups number of user tasks together according to profit generated by task and send the jobs to available resources. The computation communication time which is reduced, and hence overall system efficiency is increased. Since total execution time is reduced, overall cost is also reduced, which is what is my aim of my work.
Where are the comparative results?
Sir, the result is
I mean, have you compared with the algorithms that are published in, suppose, IEEE transactions on cloud computing in the last 2 years? There are a lot of papers being published regularly on task scheduling on cloud.
yes, sir.
With what other works you have compared?
Sir, I have only two activity-based and improved activity. Only two algorithms I have compared, but I have studied.
Because you were just, what your CCC centered about, you were just improving an existing ABC scheme. That's activity-based costing is already existing.
I am
By
improving
some very easy methods, then you are only comparing with that, but you are not comparing with the other state-of-the-art methods.
Sir, which I have already studied, but definitely these give better results. I have studied them.
But that you cannot claim without giving efficient results in your.
Sir, I can put more
But
results
you
in the cloud center.
There are several pages dedicated to what is cloud computing and things like that, which are completely irrelevant. You don't do all. There is cloud scene, different parts of cloud scene. We do not talk so much about this. Better you highlight what are the advantages of your improvement scheme. That is most essential. That can be done through comparisons. And these are your publications. There are 4 journal publications.
One is last one is yet to be published, sir. That is accepted in IJIRB. It will be published in January. I have got the acceptance.
How many of these journals are SCI units? I don't think any of. The first journal is computer, IT and bioinformatics. Why don't you publish in some, look, when you want to publish serious work, you should go for
Sir,
India, India or Indian science. But I don't think any of all these journals are these journals open access or not?
Yes, sir, open access.
There is another bad thing about it. You should publish in such journals where you don't have to pay for your paper. You are already, when you are publishing, remember, when you are publishing a work, you are already contributing to the scholarly world. Why you have to pay at all, anyway? So some works remains to be done. Thank you for your presentation.
These are the references. Thank you.